When The Big Bang Theory first introduced viewers to Sheldon Cooper, he was a man of meticulous habits and peculiar preferences. Among the many quirks that made him such a distinct character, one oddity stood out in his Pasadena apartment. There was no dining table. Instead, Sheldon and Leonard often ate dinner on the couch, using TV trays while watching their favorite shows. For years, fans brushed it off as a character eccentricity or even a production convenience. But Young Sheldon, the prequel that explored the genius's childhood, eventually gave a subtle, devastating explanation for this absence, and it lies deep within Sheldon's emotional scars and his fractured past. A table that was never just a table. In most homes, a dining table is a symbol of togetherness. It's where families gather to eat, talk, laugh, and sometimes argue. It represents connection, routine, and love, things Sheldon struggled to find growing up. In Young Sheldon, viewers are introduced to a precocious boy with a towering intellect but very few emotional anchors. He's awkward, often misunderstood, and painfully out of step with his family, peers, and the world around him. But the dining table in the Cooper household was one of the few places where the family, for better or worse, came together. However, as the series progressed, that family unity began to crack. George Sir's growing emotional distance, Mary's obsession with appearances, Missy's feeling of invisibility, and Georgie's desperate attempts to mature all created a household simmering with tension. Even when they sat together, the Coopers were rarely together in spirit. The table, once a setting for family life, became a silent witness to its slow unraveling. In the later seasons of Young Sheldon, as George Sir's health falters and his absence becomes more noticeable, the family's meals become more fragmented. Sheldon often eats alone or finds refuge in solitude, reflecting a coping mechanism that would follow him into adulthood. He begins associating the dinner table not with warmth, but with discomfort, grief, and silence. The very place that should represent home becomes a reminder of everything he lost. A moment that says everything. In Young Sheldon's final season, a scene stands out. Sheldon, now a teenager preparing to leave for Caltech, walks into the kitchen after a long day. Mary is trying to hold the family together after George Sir's death. The dining table is set, but no one comes to eat. Georgie is at work. Missy storms out. Mary sits at the table alone with a plate of food, and Sheldon quietly picks up his plate and walks to his room. There's no fight, no shouting, just an eerie silence that echoes louder than any argument could. That scene explains so much with so little. It is the moment fans can trace directly to Sheldon's adult life and the absence of a dining table in his apartment. Eating at a table isn't just a logistical choice. For Sheldon, it's emotionally loaded. Why recreate a space that once represented isolation, awkward silences, and unspoken grief? In Pasadena, Sheldon designs a living environment that gives him control and comfort. The couch becomes his safe haven, the TV trays his replacement for a family dining table, functional but emotionally detached. In many ways, it's a coping strategy. A dining table brings with it memories he doesn't want to revisit. The TV tray as a symbol. What's remarkable about Young Sheldon is how it retroactively turns the mundane into the meaningful. In The Big Bang Theory, the TV trays are quirky, amusing, and reflective of Sheldon's odd preferences. But in the emotional context of his upbringing, they transform into protective tools, barriers between him and the past. The trays aren't just convenience, they're distance. They let Sheldon avoid the vulnerability of sitting face to face with someone during a meal. Unlike a dining table, where conversations are expected, TV trays allow him to focus on the television, redirecting interaction and minimizing social discomfort. They allow meals to be routine, predictable, and most importantly, emotionally safe. And perhaps that's why Sheldon insists on specific seat assignments and precise dinner schedules. In a life once defined by chaos, by a father's absence, a mother's emotional volatility, and a family that slowly drifted apart, routine is how he maintains balance. The missing dining table is no longer an oddity, it's a wound hidden in plain sight. The ghost of the Cooper table. Throughout The Big Bang Theory, there are fleeting references to Sheldon's past, but it's Young Sheldon that provides the true emotional blueprint. The absence of the dining table is the absence of a traditional, loving family environment. As Sheldon builds his adult life, he subconsciously eliminates anything that might remind him of what he never truly had. In Season 4 of Young Sheldon, there's a flash-forward moment where adult Sheldon, narrating the show, mentions how much he missed his dad during major life events. It's the first time we hear Sheldon genuinely acknowledge his grief. But that grief never becomes a conversation in The Big Bang Theory. It stays buried, repressed under layers of sarcasm, intellect, and ritual. The Cooper dining table, once the site of family dinners, becomes an invisible character in Sheldon's life, its absence louder than its presence. By removing the dining table from his adult home, Sheldon isn't just making a space-saving decision. He's erasing a relic of emotional pain. Leonard, Penny, and the table that never was. Leonard, Sheldon's long-suffering roommate, never questions the lack of a dining table, at least not directly. Perhaps even he sensed it was one of those Sheldon things best left unchallenged. But viewers occasionally get hints of how their dynamic could have changed if such a table existed. Meals might have been more intimate, conversations deeper, and the shared experience of living together more human. When Penny eventually joins their social circle more permanently, she brings warmth and emotion back into their lives, qualities Sheldon resists but secretly craves. In one episode, she suggests moving furniture around and even jokes about making the apartment more normal. Sheldon, predictably, panics. It's not just a fear of change, it's fear of reopening doors he long ago closed. And yet, it's Penny who begins to bridge that emotional gap for Sheldon. Through her persistence and genuine affection, she brings traces of familial comfort into his rigid world. She becomes, in many ways, a substitute for what Sheldon lost, a sister figure who cares deeply, argues passionately, and occasionally forces him out of his bubble. But even with Penny around, the dining table never comes back. Amy and the final piece? It isn't until Sheldon marries Amy that we see real emotional evolution. Amy, more than anyone, challenges Sheldon to face his past and build a new emotional framework. Their marriage represents growth, healing, and vulnerability. And yet, even in their shared apartment, a traditional dining table remains absent for much of the series. Perhaps Amy understands. She doesn't force Sheldon to adopt traditional norms if they bring him discomfort. Instead, they create their own rituals, shared meals, quirky traditions, intellectual sparring that serve the same purpose as family dinners but without the trauma attached to a table. In a poetic way, Amy helps Sheldon reclaim comfort in companionship, proving that family isn't defined by dinner tables or seating arrangements, but by mutual respect and emotional safety. Conclusion: a table left behind. What began as a curious absence in The Big Bang Theory becomes one of the most emotionally resonant details explored in Young Sheldon. The missing dining table isn't just a set design choice, it's a symbol of loss, loneliness, and a childhood filled with fracture